Hello, and welcome to another episode of the MiamiHal and Hav Show. We are here every single week, Thursdays at 2 o'clock, to talk about things that are real estate related. You're pointing at me.
You are here every Thursday.
You're here approximately every
once
fourth.
in a while. Yeah.
Yeah, about every fourth episode. And we love having you.
Well, thank you very much. I
Because
love being had.
You bring perspective. And, we really, in our industry, we're all about personalities, right?
Absolutely.
You have to, first of all, be educated and do your job right. But then it becomes a personality match. And we've talked about this so many times.
Absolutely.
Real estate really is about a partnership. And if you're not friendly or able to communicate with your partner, then you got the wrong partner, right?
I fired somebody this week.
Oh, we need to hear about that.
I'll let you know.
Well, let's start with that because you brought it up already.
No, I had a listing and they didn't follow through, and I fired them after we rented the property. So I said, I will no longer represent you ever again.
Now that's interesting because we talked about it's a partnership, right?
It's a partnership.
So I don't know if you want to go into specifics. I mean, obviously you're not going to mention names, but tell me about you. So you won a piece of business. If you're listing for them, then you had some way to win that piece of business.
And I've managed the property for quite some time.
Okay.
And they said, we're going to do this. And when push came to shove, they didn't do that. And I had conveyed to the tenant that the person is going to do this, and they didn't do it. And I said,
Made you look bad. Made you look bad because you
believe. I always win. I always win. I'm basically, all we do is win, no matter what. Hands up. Okay. No, but at the end of the day, it was like, I was very, very upset. I said, you know what? I'm done. So again, going back to personality matches. Also, I'm old, and we've talked about this too, that I'm old. And so you get to a point where you can kind of pick and choose who you're going to work with.
Yes.
And I'm starting to pick and choose who I want to work with. So if you don't fit into what I'm trying to do, bye-bye.
Okay. So you're saying this was a multi-year relationship you had. Mm-hmm. And my assumption is during those years, you gave guidance and gave education to your customer. And you had a major point, which you're not going to obviously tell me what it was, but you had a major point, and you guys had a difference of opinion, and they said they would do what you told them to do, and then they didn't.
Right. Oh, they promised something, and then that promise didn't happen.
So if we really boil it down, it came to trust. Up until then, you could trust them.
I could deal with them.
Yeah, if they did what they said they would do. Then you can continue to trust them. But here they said, hey, I'm going to do that, and they didn't. No. Trust broken, relationship essentially over.
Done.
Wow.
Stick a fork in it. Bye-bye.
All right.
And it's, it's two properties. And again, to young realtors, I get it. I know that it's all about the dollar bill, but it'll get to a point where it is important. The reason why I don't deal with developers is because I don't want to be locked into one side. Remember, we represent... At the end of the day,
you represent a transaction,
and you have to be fair to both sides.
Always. So that's what a contract is written to be,
right?
As a boilerplate. Yes, when you negotiate, sometimes a buyer or seller may be at an advantage, but the idea is to have a contract and a transaction that is fair to both parties.
Correct.
Yeah. All right.
At least in my eyes.
Speaking about being fair and balanced and all those things, we have at the state level, we have the business, I don't know, I'm going to get this exactly right.
DBPR.
Yeah, DBPR. Yeah. Florida Department of Business and Professional Regulation. It escaped my mind for a moment. And whether you're a plumber, an electrician, a contractor, or a real estate agent, you place your license within the guidelines of that commission.
Yes.
In particular, a subsection of the DBPR is FREC.
Yep.
More four-letter acronyms.
Yes.
Okay. Florida Real Estate.
Loves
they do. They do. The Florida Real Estate Commission.
Yep.
And as you and I have known for many, many years, we are supposed to be regulated by FREC, and FREC has the ability to dole out punishments for those that don't do the right things. Thankfully, I know you, have never had a problem with FREC. Neither have I. So that's a good thing. But yesterday, and I just saw this today, yesterday there was a bill forwarded in the House for a vote eventually to disband FREC, get rid of it.
Boneheaded move.
Yeah.
Don't get me don't.
Wait a minute. Boneheaded move to get rid of FREC?
Yes.
And this is, by the way, Have let me know this before the show began. You don't like FREC.
No.
Okay. But still you think it should be
Absolutely.
there. Let's talk about why.
Well, no. Hold on a second. I mentioned FREC. What I really hate is the MLS. That's what I really despise.
Yeah. And even higher than that, the Z name.
Yeah, no, all of those people. You know what? They're hurting, man. They're pretty funny. They're reaching out. FREC is, I think, critical, especially to monitor real estate transactions and to monitor realtors. You know, after a while, if you've been in the business long enough, you kind of know where you're supposed to be, right? But in the beginning, in the early stages, and it is our number one industry, right? Real estate is our number one industry in the state of Florida.
Yeah, I think tourism, dollars, but behind that,
we move a lot of
the state lives and dies by the real estate.
It does, because every transaction is taxed, and we give money to the state and at all levels, and that's why we don't have a state income tax and yada 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 yada.
Oh, but there's also talk about getting rid of property tax.
Yeah, no, that's.
Yeah.
Listen,
let's stay on this one, and maybe we move over to that.
Go for it and figure out how you're gonna pay for your local government, how you're gonna pay for a bus. Let me know. I'd be more than happy to.
But if we get rid of FREC, what I'm discerning out of this, because this is like a 400-page law.
They're getting rid of all departments.
They are getting rid of all departments, and it would the DBPR would still exist.
Yeah, it would exist.
But clearly,
oversight would be gone.
Yeah, oversight would be gone, and they would be inundated with claims and problems and this and that, and they'd never get to it.
I think that also affects the condo associations. Yay!
Yay! Well, I didn't read that much detail, but
that's
yes,
just
it
about
probably
should. Yeah, it probably will.
That makes a lot of sense.
Fun times, man. Fun times in the state of Florida.
This is conjecture.
Come on down to the state of Florida.
Total conjecture.
Buy a house down here.
Well, it may not be a full state by the time they're done gutting various parts of it. This is really interesting to me, because the only thing I could even imagine that would be behind the move to try something like this is to get rid of some bodies in government, right? Why else would they eliminate FREC?
And the thing about it is, as it's pointed out, the Realtor Association is in favor of keeping FREC.
Right.
And usually we hate anything that is regulatory.
Right.
Well, yeah. That's our big thing. I was like, no, I want to build everything. I want to build as tall as I can. I want that building to be tall.
Right.
But that's interesting that it's actually our association is against it.
So I brought it up just because people out there, if you have an opportunity to talk to somebody in government, say, listen, I want to make sure I'm protected.
If you can find
and believe me, there is a ton of stuff Hav and I can tell you that go on in real estate transactions where we need some real regulation and some real enforcement of that regulation.
No, it's a legal binding contract.
Right.
So you can't have just any moron writing. You can have moron like me, but you can't have just any moron writing these things. So I don't know. I would keep FREC.
Then we touched upon, and we're going to do this very briefly.
Me being a moron?
no, that we'll leave alone.
We'll leave that one alone.
You said it on your own.
On my own.
What I wanted to next talk about is, there is also a movement. I wouldn't say it's down to a bill yet, in the state of Florida to eliminate property tax. And at first, of course, everybody would cheer, right? I don't have to spend my, $5,000 up to like probably $80,000 a month,
bazillions of money
a year on property tax. Yep. But like, where is the money going to come from? We already don't collect a sales tax.
No.
And so there's all these, discussions about, we'll tax tourism more, we'll do this, we'll do that. But still, what are your thoughts about, could we possibly eliminate property tax?
What I would do is possibly eliminate insurance. Keep your property tax. Go figure out insurance, you boneheads. That's our problem, not taxes.
I can't argue with that.
State of Florida, insurance. FIFO it. And if you FIFO it, then we will be good. So focus all of your attention on insurance, on insurance reform. Forget about all the other stupid stuff that you're dealing with. Insurance reform.
All right. So
Insurance reform.
And you had, because this is great that we're doing this. We're kind of rapid firing, hitting some major topics. Many, many times on the show prior, you said when people are insuring their property, they should be insuring the improvements on the property.
The thing that
because
you live
if
in.
we had a massive flood or a massive hurricane, and the land's not going anywhere, right?
Can't go anywhere.
Okay.
Last I checked.
So,
and Mark Twain said they're not making any more of it.
Oh, well,
Except in Dubai.
Mark Twain said it. We know it's true.
So, yeah. Funny guy. Yeah, that is that's my pet peeve.
All right.
And then in taxes, you've got to keep real estate taxes, and people, and I try to always stress this, is look at your real estate taxes, see where your money actually goes. And so when you say, and I hear this all the time, is I pay this in property taxes, make sure you know, and I want my garbage picked up, make sure you know where your money is going, because it ain't going to what you think it's going to.
Right.
So let's do one of those. We can do like a tax.
Oh, you want to pull out a massive, board with the
absolutely
average tax bill, and we'll go through
I'll trump that craziness right here up in front, man. I'll do it.
I heard what you did there. Don't
like it?
Don't. Okay. We also want to touch upon something.
This is why I only come every once.
Yeah, I may not invite you back for 2 months now.
Exactly.
All right. So one of the things that I encountered, how we used to do, what did you learn this week?
Yeah.
Okay. And you fired one of your clients this week. I want to talk to you about something which I encountered and it like blew my mind. So I have a listing, and I had somebody that brought a wonderful offer, and the next thing we have to do now, because as you know, last August the world blew up and commissions are done very differently than they used to be. Now, and again, just a quick recap, if you're hiring an agent to sell your home, you pay that agent. And if you are looking for a home and you hire an agent, you pay that agent. And there's papers that match the brokerage and the agent to their customer. And so when an agent is bringing a buyer to my property, they should already have a buyer-broker agreement. This is a term that says, hey, this agent is going to show me these types of properties.
And they don't. That's why you need FREC.
Wow. Good turn. Good turn. Anyway, the piece of paper says, this agent's going to show me properties of this type in this area. And if we are successful in finding and closing on a property, I'm going to pay my agent X, whatever that is. Okay. So that's the background you need to know. So have a listing. Somebody comes along with a great buyer. We negotiate a contract, and we're almost at the end of the negotiation to get us into true contract. And she says, well, what is the seller paying? And my answer was, it needs to be negotiated in the offer. Right. And we'll go as a little sidebar to that in a moment. But she said, I'm expecting 3%. And I said, how would you expect 3%? We didn't advertise it because we're not allowed to anymore. Right. And in addition, my particular seller chose not to offer anything to the buyer's agent until it's negotiated. So let me ask you a question, the agent on the other side. What does your buyer broker agreement say on it? And here's the response I got that blew my mind. Actually, see if you can guess what response I got.
What buyer broker agreement?
Oh, no. That person had a buyer broker agreement.
Oh, brilliant.
And she proudly read off that she was being paid 0% on the buyer broker agreement. Long pause, folks. And there's a reason for the long pause. Understand this. She was smart enough to get the piece of paper out, which a lot of agents aren't, and get her customer to sign it. But the customer said, I'm not going to pay you anything. Just go out and work for me.
Go out there and show property.
Have you ever had a job in your life where you said, let me just work and not get paid?
I work in real estate.
Have you ever legally signed yourself up to work and not get paid?
No,
okay. Well, that's what that document was. That agent had done that. And I very carefully explained, I said, listen, I feel bad for you right now, really bad. Because even if, and it's not the case here, even if my seller had in the listing agreement promised to pay a buyer broker a certain amount of money for a successful sale, I'm not allowed to do it, because the relationship is, show me the piece of paper that allows you to get paid, and your piece of paper says 0%. How do you think I resolve that?
Let's see. You told them, go get another buyer's broker agreement.
I did.
See?
Now, am I a nice guy for doing that?
You are a wonderful guy, but also you got the deal done.
Yeah.
Because if not, you probably wouldn't have gotten the deal.
I did. And I whispered to her, I said, listen, before you go any further in the negotiation,
change that 0.
Go back and negotiate with your customer and get a brand new agreement that says a percentage or a dollar figure. I don't care what it is, because that's the maximum that the transaction is going to allow you to get paid. That is that document is everything to you. And right now you have nothing on that document. 0% is $0.
Zero is 0. Yep.
All right. So, have you encountered anything like that?
No.
No. You would just have perfect transactions every time.
Every transaction is perfect.
Show's over, folks.
But I'll be here all week.
Okay.
No, not since the change. I have.
Okay. Now that is really
I have other issues, but not.
Okay. Yeah. So that's the agent side of that type of equation. But I wanted to get your thoughts on how negotiations go now, because it, has always been, hey, I don't think your house is worth $1 million. I think it's worth 900.
Right.
And you go back and forth on the price. Oh, well, you wanted 15 days for inspection. You can get a guy out here tomorrow. Why are we doing 15 days? And so there are a number of things that you negotiate on every contract. And now, almost as important as the price is this whole concept of commission. Hey, who's getting paid what, when, how, and why?
Deal with it early on.
So that has really become a major factor in the negotiation back and forth. And to me, it's an interesting and worthwhile discussion, because the contract itself remains between the buyer and the seller.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, the agents are helping, but they are not part of that contract. What's happening with the negotiation terms is, as a byproduct of that contract, there needs to be a separate negotiation.
Yeah.
Okay. And more documentation. Of course, we have more and more PDFs and paper than ever, right? And the first round of this is in the contract negotiations. You put, hey, this contract is contingent upon commissions being negotiated, and at least in default, within 3 days of the contract being signed. Right. And if we can't come to agreement there, the contract's void, right? Yeah. So it adds complexity.
Yeah.
Have you had any experience with this yet?
No.
You are no help to me at all today.
I'm sorry. I told you early on, you said, I'm going to talk about commissions, and I'm going to say, whatever.
Okay.
I know nothing.
So folks, what that means is Hav is very happy to work for 0% commission on you.
Yes.
Very interesting. So let's talk about one other thing. And that I think I've at least got people thinking about, hey, when I go to buy or sell a property, I've got really two negotiations going on. One is, hey, how am I going to get the terms around the actual sale with my buyer or seller? And then I have a separate negotiation to make sure that the commissions of those that have been helping are paid properly.
Right.
Okay. So we'll put a light pin in that one. Okay.
I'm ready.
Let's move on to what I consider, and maybe you're going to tell me differently, your kind of home base, Coconut Grove.
Right.
Okay. You know Coconut Grove.
Inside out, backwards, upside down.
And it's because not only have you been an agent there, not only do you live in that area, but also because you've gotten politically involved and you're a community activist in that area.
And I got a side gig.
Tell me about your side gig.
So I am the Coconut Grove liaison for the commissioner's office. So I basically am the 311 of Coconut Grove.
So
you complain about anything, I give you a civic lesson.
Really?
Yep.
And
so if you have any complaints, you come. I usually get them, and then I will explain why some things can happen and why things can't happen. We should have a show about this.
I'm I'm going to do one test, and then we'll see if it's worthy of a show.
You tell me.
I gain a listing in Coconut Grove, how
Mhm.
big can my sign be?
How big can your sign be?
Yeah,
Your big can be the big one.
the big one.
Yeah.
Well, it can be like 3 feet by 4 feet.
No, whatever the one there, 18 by 24. I don't know the
Aha.
damn sign. That sign, that's it.
Okay.
But if you use one of those, you're kind of cheesy. You should use the little ones at 10 by 14s.
Okay. And so
Coral Gables is the one that's the small one.
what about Coral
Put up
Gables
open
is,
house. Put
Coral
open.
Gables is why even put a sign up.
Put up open house signs anywhere you want. in
That was my
Coconut Grove.
next question.
Do you know
Coconut Grove,
why?
why?
Because we're not Coconut Grove. We're the city of Miami. So there's your first civic lesson. Coconut Grove doesn't exist.
So your job doesn't exist.
True.
And that, but
Think about
therefore you don't exist.
Exactly.
You just play golf.
Bye.
The show's getting more and more fun by the minute.
I'm telling you, that's what the biggest misconception. There is no Coconut Grove. Coconut Grove is a name, just a name, but it is not a municipality.
Right.
So that's the key. So every time you see Coconut Grove, and by the way, Coconut Grove shouldn't even be Coconut Grove. It should be Cocoa Nut Grove because that's how it was founded. So it's COCOANUT, not COCOUT.
Wow.
Told you.
That-
You want more
listen.
useless information? I am
You know how the people say you learn something new every day?
learn something.
That is the only thing
You've
today
learned
that you taught me.
That's everything else.
Cocoa nut.
Cocoa Nut Grove.
Okay.
That's how it
And
was.
do we have any idea why it kind of evolved?
They
into
just
Coconut
basically
Grove?
got rid of it. I think probably when the city of Miami took it over in 1925.
1925.
Because
So
we were our
starting
own
to know some history.
municipality.
Let's go history. Come on.
So we were our own
Lay some-
municipality, like
yes.
a little township, and then the city of Miami annexed us in 1925, and they continue to do that through politics because anytime there is a Coconut Grove specific issue, the commissioners will try to put it to the city, because the city then will vote, and usually the Grove will vote against that project. A good example is the waterfront project right by City Hall.
Okay.
So,
Tell me about
so this was probably about 6-7 years ago. It was a project where the Bayshore Club is and where the wharf is, the marina. So that marina, to get the lease done, if they would have left it just for the voters of Coconut Grove, it would have lost, because the voters of Coconut Grove voted 60-something% to 30%.
to kind of keep it the way it was.
Yeah, against the
Mm-hmm.
property. City of Miami voted the other way around. They voted 60-30. So that's why you have that marina there. Somebody asked me about that today, so that's why. Oh yeah, granted.
Thank you.
So Grant asked me about it, so I gave him that little bit of lesson. So yeah, so I think what ends up happening is as Coconut Grove, in Coconut Grove, you're asking me about Coconut Grove. There are many things that happen in Coconut Grove that I feel bad for realtors, because they spew some stuff, to not say the other word, that is just flat out wrong and could get them in a lot of trouble. I dealt with one yesterday where the person sold the property thinking that this is the property, and they never considered a base building line because it was considered a corner property. So now the person that's building there can't build there.
Wow.
So how would you feel? I have realtors that say,
if I bought something that was smaller than what I thought it was,
yeah, and I say, and to buildable, it's still the same lot size, but you can't
right,
use it
you can't use this.
because there's an easement. You in Palmetto Bay and Pinecrest,
I know
you have
that.
utility easements, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I think, and I see it all the time, and I try to, I think one of the things in Coconut Grove is, and we should put it in the seller's disclosure. Half the people don't even know what the hell the seller's disclosure is. Half of them screw it up anyway. But people should understand that you are buying in a neighborhood conservation district. So these grand plan dreams that you may have about building out a property, you will run into a lot, because there are limitations as to what you can do.
You
So
said
people like I
Yeah.
know that.
yeah, you said agents are doing this often, where they misrepresent.
Absolutely.
Now, do you think anybody's doing that purposefully, or
No.
they're just doing it out of ignorance?
Yeah, ignorance.
Okay.
FREC. Seriously, it's pure ignorance. I mean, I go in and I hear people say things, and it's like, no, stop it.
Do you have
Don't.
another example on the top of your head?
Yes, lot splitting. People think that because a lot is a certain size, you can split it into certain groups, and you can't. So there's limitations as to what you can do.
It's not that you can't. Absolutely, it's that you must go through an entire process.
No, that
right?
what you think you can get 3 lots, it's only 2. There's one in particular, if you look, and this got somebody into a lot of trouble, and I can use the property. So on the corner of Justice and Crawford, there was a lot there and the person marketed it as 3. And you couldn't do it because there is a little Florida statute that was passed through the Florida Supreme Court that has setbacks on that particular property and in that particular area in general. So then it's not a 3 buildable lot. So what you thought you may be buying 20,000 square feet of land and being able to split it into 2 10s. No. We also had SD 18s. We've done, but no. So that's what I feel is FREC, because they can kind of review things. But if you're buying in Coconut Grove, you better have a realtor that knows what the hell they're doing.
Yeah.
Because if not, you will.
Even though it's the city of Miami, it is highly specialized subsection thereof. And you need somebody like Hav.
I can brag as a realtor, there is no realtor in Coconut Grove that knows more than I do about Coconut Grove.
And I think
that they can spew whatever they want.
Over the years, you have proven that. And those that watch this show, as I just got schooled again. Thank you.
I'm a living legend.
So if somebody wants to work with you, how do they get in touch with you, and how do you determine whether you want to work with them?
Expectations is number 1.
Okay.
Right. So you come into Coconut Grove and you tell me, oh, I want something for, $1 million. Yeah, no, it's not going to happen. Not now, or at least for land or for whatever it is. So really it's expectation. And it's like you say, it's a personality match, right? It's, if you've got to get along with the individual because you're going to be dealing with the individual.
We've hit so many great topics.
We have. Today's been one of them shows.
And you're having fun. So I'm going to give you a little bit more area for fun.
Leeway.
Talk about the Dolphins.
Oh, I got rid of my Miami Herald subscription. I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Miami Herald. You're not worth $60 a month.
Tell us why.
So they bumped up our bill to $60 a month.
Okay.
Okay. New York Times, which is probably the best newspaper out there, the Wall Street Journal is the best newspaper. You have papers that are actually have merit, and they charge you $28.
And they still have writers.
And they still have writers.
Nothing against AI.
Right. Nothing against Andres and a couple of the other writers that I personally know in the Herald, but you ain't worth no $60.
Together, not worth $60. So
no, bye-bye.
And I think, and I don't remember the numbers. I really wish I did, because I know this was shocking to me. Approximately 10 years ago, there was like 1.2 million subscribers to the Miami Herald. Right. And the number is somewhere down around 60,000 now.
I'm telling you, I wouldn't be surprised, because again, you just don't. And then also general media is just like spew the same thing. And then everybody's gone into it. Don't get me started on this one, but I'm going there. Everybody's in an echo chamber. Whatever they want to hear is what they read. Right. So if you're a commie, you read the New York Times. If you're a righty, you read the Post. So if you watch MSNBC or you watch Fox, for sure. So everything's like echo chambered and nobody talks to each other. And it's like, whatever. That's
very interesting, because one of the things I do, and I try to live by it myself as well, is to open myself up to conversation with all different types of people. It's about what the show is about. Yeah. It's about what I write about in the Pinecrest Tribune. I try to understand the world from multiple perspectives, because somewhere in the middle is good education every time, and probably it isn't a left or right.
It never
answer.
Is. It
it's
never
somewhere
is.
in between.
It's always in between. And you have a certain segment that you're never going to move, and you have another segment that you have. So you have your right segment that you're never going to move, and you have a left segment that you're never going to move. So don't waste your time with them, because you're never going to move them. They're always going to be, or they're going to be. So people in the middle that actually make things work. Sorry. I can talk politics too if you want. Just go straight down that.
We did a great job of skirting.
Go straight, we can go straight down that on both sides of the sides of the aisle, whatever we have.
I will tell you.
You wanted to talk stocks.
Oh yes, let's talk about that. Our last topic is, we obviously have a stock market that is seesawing and making people crazy. I'm one of them.
The bond market is what you should be looking at.
Yeah. What do you think would be the medium to long-term impact of what's going on Wall Street with our real estate here in South Florida?
It's horrible.
What, like buyers are not going to buy?
No, because people don't feel okay. So if you have a certain segment that all of a sudden has lost $18 trillion worth of value, right, on your stock portfolio or your 401k or whatever, you just don't feel like rosy, like you're not cheery. Like, oh yeah, I'm going to go spend money now.
Right.
I think what we need to look for very quickly, very, very quickly, is how this is going to impact the average homeowner, and how they're going to start to see spending go less and less and less. Right. You're going to start to see, what don't I need? Like, why do I need Disney Channel when
Right.
I already have Netflix? You know, why do I need these? And I think that's going to be, let's start to see how that plays out. But I just don't see that consumer confidence that you would have on a normal. You need stability, man. So we know we like, okay, we know we like what.
Yeah, we like what we like, and if
we like,
if
and
the
we
change
go,
doesn't happen,
and-
then we feel comfortable spending and doing what we like to
Yeah.
do. And as soon as there's change or turmoil, we get really quiet.
you bulk up because you don't know what to expect.
Hav, you're a world of information. Tell everybody how they can get in touch with you real quick.
305-582-5085 for all of you scammers. That's my number since 1984. So have at it.
Wow.
Just give me a call.
Never expected. You're the man who, thank you. Hal Feldman, 786-693-2005. Scammers can come. Please don't. Please don't. Until next week, have a great weekend.
Have a good one, guys. Be well. Good weekend. Fun times.